Today we're going to talk about your neck. A stiff neck, a hardened neck, causing pain, headaches even. It's about you being afraid of a slipped disc up here and the great misconception of the so-called smartphone neck, which is actually an urban myth. And maybe you are among those who are afraid of surgery performed through your throat on your cervical spine. All that can be avoided, and we can make sure it will never come to that. I'll explain to you how things are connected, how pain and tensions develop in these areas. Unfortunately, these connections are rarely talked about because nobody asks about the real causes. People simply accept having neck pain, only asking what to do about it. But the real question is, why does your neck respond like this? Because the answer lies in the question, and it is rarely given. After this video, you will be very relieved because you will have learned what you can do to avoid any of this. How you don't have to be afraid of slipped discs in your neck, all these questions will be settled. Let's have a look at our skeleton here. Here you have the 7 vertebrae of your cervical spine, and below you immediately find the thoracic spine. And of course, these sections are connected, ligaments run along here, and fascia and muscles cover everything. And the muscles surrounding your cervical spine help you to move your head forward and backwards to the side and allow you to turn your head. All that is connected to the muscles surrounding this area. And when you use all these angles, move your head in all these directions every now and then, during the day, several times a week, then these ligaments, muscles, and fascia, they stay nice and flexible and can do all those motions. And the force is acting downward here on the discs between the vertebral bodies are at a level that your body can take on. And the moment you use all those angles, pressure is put on those discs between the vertebral bodies and then taken off in a way that first squeezes out waste material and then soaks up nutrients. And these nutrients come from your food, what you eat and digest in your body. And that is the quality of your diet. And the quality of your nourishment is highest if your diet contains a large amount of plant-based foods. Animal products in your diet can be responsible for excessive acidity, acidosis, for water being displaced from the fascia, and for everything becoming brittle, inflexible, and so forth. And so, the more plant-based food that you eat, the better. And if you want to know more about this, about a healthy diet for your whole body, not only for your cervical spine, then go and read up on it. There are plenty of dietary doctors out there that have written books about it and made it easy to understand. But here, it should suffice to say, the more vegetables you eat, in particular, if you have problems up here, the more relaxed everything is, and the better everything can be repaired thanks to better nutrition. Let's assume your diet is good, and so you check all these boxes, meaning you could turn your head in all directions, your spine too. You can move back and forth, and the quantity of your nutrition is good, but in reality, this is not the case since we all lack physical exercise. That means your vertebral discs go hungry, they starve, and are not really happy. It's the same as if you didn't eat enough. You'd become weaker and susceptible to health problems. The principle that applies here is the more you move your head around in all possible directions, the more your discs are filled with nutrients, the lower the pressure is on them, and that makes a slip disc virtually impossible. The situation only happens when you neglect moving your head through the entire range of motion. You increase the load, and then you make a sudden movement. And slip discs only happen through sudden movements, and so you have a problem. You go beyond your stress limit. The amount of load your disc can withstand is exceeded. And then the ring holding it ruptures, and the gel-like substance leaks out and spreads, and that is believed to be the cause for your pain, the pain in your neck or in general in your cervical spine. And then surgery is performed that normally is not called for, since the pain usually doesn't originate there. Because if you have a ruptured disc, it does not mean pain. Of course, it's not nice to have a ruptured or slipped disc, but it is not involved in the overall situation and should not adversely impact your life. There are many people who have slipped discs, even in their cervical spines, and didn't even know it, since it had never been associated with any pain. But now we have to look at one other thing more closely, something a lot of people suffer from and which, over time, leads to excruciating pain in the neck and to extremely warped spines. Let me explain the mechanism behind this. By taking a side view at the human skeleton, we could see a slight kyphosis, meaning your spine is bent here a little, and up here, this is rather straight. We often find a lordosis, or an overextension. And we can see that down here too. If this curvature is balanced out, it is perfect for your spine, because this is the shape your spine needs to be in to function properly. But now the following happens, and this is the result of our sedentary lives. Most people, maybe you too, sit at their desks, their hands posed over the keyboard. Something like this for maybe 30 seconds, and then they start typing away. And what happens next? They begin to slouch. Let's have a closer look at what's happening here. You enlarge your kyphosis, your round back, to the point of tilting forward. And the more you tilt forward, assuming the angle between your head and your upper body stays the same, the more your gaze would go down too. But you don't want to look at something down there, you want to look at your screen. And surprise, now we have something many people struggle with, an extremely rounded back plus a severe lordosis in your cervical spine, so you were able to look straight ahead again. And what that means, looking at it from the side, this bend is moving back, and this one here forward, and that makes your head move forward too. And if your head is moving forward, gravity pulls it down. Don't forget, your head has a certain weight, and so your muscles in the back have more work to do and are under permanent stress to hold your head up. And at the same time, on account of the overextension here, these muscles become shorter. They have to hold up your head. They become shorter and are tensed up, and that is the origin of your stiff, hardened neck. And I'm sure you have someone in your family, probably a senior, unfortunately, where if you look at them from the side, you could see that the transition from the thoracic spine to the cervical spine, from the back to the neck, is almost horizontal. It bends over like this, and then the line goes up here again in the front. The entire posture is out of balance. The head is way too far forward and should be back much more. Let me briefly explain the term smartphone neck. It became somehow common knowledge that someone with neck problems has a smartphone neck. Well, there had been smartphone necks even before we had smartphones. There's no connection. I'm going to give you a great piece of advice. The term smartphone neck wants to suggest that your smartphone is bad for your cervical spine. It can be, but not necessarily. Let me show you the difference. If you look at your smartphone like this, then of course it's bad for your neck. But who does that, really? When you stand straight and your smartphone is down here, you don't have it up here, and now you bow down your head a bit, what happens then? You're actually stretching those shortened neck muscles. They are lengthened by you bending forward. And that means, and I'm not joking, you could use your smartphone, I'm serious, dead serious. You can use your smartphone as a stretching tool to resolve those neck tensions. As a stretching exercise, you just take your phone, upper body stays straight, and look down like this. Not like this, of course. You should not do that, okay? But stay straight, bow down your head at this angle, and you're stretching your neck muscles. In the end, it's about compensating these misalignments. This overly pronounced rounded back and the lordosis, the excessive extension, And there is a great exercise for this, where you can reverse exactly this situation step by step. And if you've done that and your posture is back to this, start reversing things. You could achieve it at any age, 15 or 18, the age when teenage coolness is reflected in your posture. So when you want to reverse that, do the right exercises. Basically, it's about this. There are plenty of ligaments around here. And when these ligaments are still supple, when you're, around 20 or 25, success is achieved rather quickly. But when you're 40, 50, 60, or 70, it is still possible to reverse this through exercises. But, of course, it takes longer. Because due to all the meat we eat, there is not enough water in there. Everything dries up, becomes brittle, unyielding, becomes bone dry, and sounds like a creaking old wooden house. So change your diet, take my advice. And then you can reverse this trend, and then everything happens quickly, in particular when you're still young. So as soon as your head is back in its normal position, the leverage shrinks. That means this permanent downward pull, this stress that has to be borne here, this tension is dialed back rather quickly. And the more your head is back to normal, the easier it'll be for you to hold it up like this, and the less work your muscles have to do. If you suffer from these common neck problems, there's two things you can do. Number one, your muscles around here and your fascia have to be stretched and made flexible again. Simply by doing that, the nourishment of your cervical disc is already secured to a great extent, because you put pressure on and off them again, and in this manner, waste is being squeezed out of your discs and nutrients soaked up again. To repeat, when you bend your head forward, the pressure on the back part of your disc is taken off and nutrients can be soaked up. And when the pressure is put on the front part, waste material is squeezed out. If you overextend your neck backwards, you take off pressure in the front. That means nutrients come in and waste material goes out the back part of the disc. When you bend your head to the left, then the pressure is off on the right side and applied to the left side here. Nutrients in, soaked up here, waste material out. And the same goes for the other side. A very good stimulus for feeding your neck, so to speak, is turning your head. Because when you turn, pressure is put on your discs evenly across the entire surface. So waste materials go out, and when you turn your head back, pressure is off again, so nutrients come in. This little exercise alone, turning your head from here to there and back, 2 to 3 times maybe, for 30 seconds, that's no big deal. You don't even have to stop a conversation. No wasting any time. This alone goes a long way to helping your situation. But the problem is, we just don't do it. The only time we do it is when we back out of a parking spot, looking back over our shoulder once a day. But always over this shoulder, rarely over the other one. That would be parking the wrong way. And all of that has to be normalized. And we, more about this later, have a lot of exercises for this. That's the first thing you can do. Get the geometry back to normal, reestablish mobility, give your discs the nutrients they need, and take off the overall load that axially is the term, acts on your cervical spine so you won't have to experience a slipped disc. And please, don't worry too much, even if you've already had a slipped disc, and you know it, because you can get rid of the pain courtesy of our exercises, and your body itself will take care of what is leaked out here. And that's that. As I said before, there are lots of people who are living with a slipped disc without even knowing it, having it just diagnosed by accident. The other exercise you should do to nip the problem in the bud, something I highly recommend, is the following. Restore the old curvatures here. And what is just perfect for this? The back position. When you sleep, for example, but that's a topic for another day, the back position. Since when lying on your back, on the floor, or some hard surface, You can feel it, and you could test the position of your head. How can I realign myself so that this overly pronounced curvature is reversed? The kyphosis here, the lordosis down here, the lordosis here, with my head sticking out. You can rearrange everything, like in a house. It's like redoing your house. Make a room look nicer after 10 years. Spruce it up a bit. Redecorate. You can get everything back to normal with the right exercises, but it takes time. As I said, it goes faster when you're young. When you're older, it just takes a little longer. But there is a nice connection to be found here. The pain you have, the tensions you have, you can get rid of them quite easily. Realigning everything here. Getting it back to normal, repositioning your bones. That can take months, years even. But that shouldn't worry you. Shouldn't bother you because the pain is gone. But don't make the mistake and stop with the exercises the moment the pain disappears. Because that would get you back to square one again, and you don't want to wind up like this, do you? Pushing a walker. What sadly happens to a lot of the old folks who never got the memo like you did, telling you how to prevent it.